Good afternoon to all of you. We came to the last topic of unit number 1, that is synchronization primitives. Synchronization primitives is the last concept of this unit number 1. So let us see what are the synchronization primitives, how the synchronization will be taken into consideration by concurrent programming, and let us see everything here. Okay. So, in synchronization primitives, one primitive is not supposed to discussed by me at this moment because those primitives will be, semaphore. The primitive, one of the primitives will be semaphore. The semaphore will be there in inter-process communication. Whereby I'd like to discuss each and every concept or point related to inter-process communication regarding to semaphore. Okay, now I'm not supposed to discuss anything regarding to semaphore here. Only what are the different aspects of synchronization can be discussed at this moment. And the first and the foremost solution, very beginning solution of the critical section problem. Synchronization is critical section problem. I'd like to discuss up to critical section problem only. Okay, after unit 1 will be get started, process, explanation of process and threads gets over. Then inter-process communication, I'll go ahead with the discussion of semaphore. How many kinds of semaphores are there? What is binary semaphores? What is numbers of semaphores? How they could be gets executed or evaluated? Everything will be discussed. Okay. Then let's get started today. So previously, in the previous classes, we have completed the race condition. How the race condition will be existed in different kinds of platforms, such as operating systems or database management systems or computer networks, real-time computer networks. How the race condition will be gets existed, and what are the different kinds of race condition primitives? Everything has been discussed. Everything has been discussed in the previous classes. Okay. Today, we'd like to go ahead and discuss regarding to synchronization and how synchronization could be, and what are the different primitives of synchronization which will be taken into consideration will be discussed today. Okay. Look at this. Synchronization primitives. So, synchronization. What do you mean by synchronization here is, synchronization will be gets occurred when more than one process is being executed, or more than one process will be executed on several shared resources. There are several shared resources in computer. So out of them, several processes are trying to execute, or access or modify the data of those resources. Then synchronization will be gets evaluated. Otherwise, there is no synchronization concept in the system. Okay, only one process will be gets run within the particular system. No question of synchronization, because no other process will be there, and anything should not be shared with anybody, so that the synchronization could not be there. Okay. Now, synchronization is generally two different types of synchronization properties are available. One is competition, and the second one is cooperation. Okay, competition, and second one is the cooperation. This competition and cooperation will be always depends upon behavior of number of processes. This behavior of number of processes will be very important. Whether all the processes are in cooperation mode, or all the processes are trying to get the resource or not. Let us consider. I'd like to give you a very real-time example at this moment. So now, India is giving vaccination to the people right away from 40 some years gap, maybe I don't remember that particular age. And at several different places, vaccination has been given. And today, in Narsarapet, somewhere in an SSN college, vaccination will be given for this particular age. Then immediately, very early morning, people will be there to get the vaccination. If they will be formed in a row, say in a column, in a queue, and they will be take one by one without any so hesitation, then such kind of operation will be called as cooperation. So one person has vaccinated, then second person will be enter into vaccinated area and he will get the injection and he will be left that one. Then third person will be enter into vaccination area and he will get the injection and he will left. So if this kind of thing, so all other people will be understand that only one person will be given vaccination at any point of time, that is called as cooperation. In other words, so many people are entering into vaccination area. No, give me first, give me first, something like that. So quarreling kind of issue will be there. People are get competing each other. So no, I'm the first, something like that. That is called as a competition. So it is generalized example I have given in terms of today. Nowadays, this COVID vaccination is being going on in India, not only India, anywhere else in the world. So competition and cooperation will receive something like that. Okay, let us see what are these two. What are these two? So normally, what is the synchronization? What the actual definition for actual process of synchronization is? Synchronization is always framing some kind of rules and regulations, which could be executed in a sequential manner, not in interleaving manner. Sequential manner. What do you mean by interleaving in the sense? When CPU will be there, the CPU could be there so to execute something. Okay, this is the CPU, so which is being taken some kind of process, and one process is being considered. So 50% of the process has been completed, something like this. So 50% up to this area, the process has been completed. Still more to be complete. Then any other process will become and so wants to preempt this particular already executing. Then such kind of situation is called as interleaving. That kind of situation will be called as interleaving. But this interleaving is not expected while so when a critical section in the sense, so shared resources data will be accessed and shared resources data will be modified. These two operations will be done on shared kind of things. When data will be under sharing mode, many people could not take and many people could not do some kind of modification. If many people will take and do modification, race condition will be gets occur. To eliminate such kind of situation, the synchronization will be always frames, rules, and mechanisms which will be taken into consideration to sequencing. Sequencing in the sense, one person will be executed those two operations, the second person could not. At least the critical section must be executed in a sequential manner. Remaining everything will be executed in a parallel manner, but the critical section could be always executed so in a sequential manner. So some kind of activity will be proposed by synchronization. That is the actual, so the meaning of synchronization here. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and have some kind of discussion on the what is that competition. Let us discuss something about competition at this point here. So competition in the sense, so this type of processes will be interact with each other to enter into critical section, to execute at the same time. To execute at the same time here. Normally, if you take any critical section of one particular problem, critical section in the sense, so this is the critical section. Let me explain you. So there is one particular shared resource that is server. Let us consider this is server, and the server does have some so shared resources that is CPU cycles. Let me write. CPU cycles will be shared resources, and then memory will be shared resource, and then so what you call repository. A repository also so shared resource, something like this. Many number of shared resources are there, and the process A and the process B and the process C. All these things will be wants to access the repository at the same time. The repository will be given. I mean, modification on repository. This operation will be given either of so these three, not exactly all these three. Either of these three. Okay. If critical section will be executed at any at the same time by all processes, which will be leads a problem, The problem is called as race condition. Okay, all processes are trying to compete to execute its critical section. So as per the example, a repository value is being modified by process A, process B, and process C. It is being modified by process A, B, C at the same time. No, it could not be. They will be compete each other, but the solutions for critical section will be gives you a chance to execute only one process, not exactly more than one process is being executed. Okay, it could be allowed to do, but the competition will be very high. Only one particular process will be given chance to execute. Only one particular process. Okay, competition will be everybody has to put. I mean, all processes have been forward the requisition. Now I'd like to execute my critical section. Now I'd like to execute my information. A signal will be passed to the synchronization mechanism that I'm going to. No, 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 not like this. Only one process will be given to execution. Then in this particular thing, normally this particular competition will be gets occur when shared resources will be there. When shared resources will be there with you. Okay, if shared resources will be there with you, obviously you have this kind of competition. Okay, if you consider, if you recall yourself the deadlock situation from operating systems course, then you could understand how resources will be gets allocated. Okay, so in shared resources kind of situation will be there, then obviously you could get this competitive synchronization will be there. Out of these, so based on several primitives or several considerations, only one process will be allowed to take the specific resource. Okay. This is one kind of synchronization. Second kind is cooperation. Cooperation has been divided into two: variant or reducious. Variant means variant in the sense they might have some kind of one more system or one more software executed code will be there, which is not allow you to execute or to enter into the critical section unless otherwise. So synchronization activity will be gives a permission. Then only you will be allowed into enter into the critical section. So that is what about variant. Okay, there must be created one variant, something like this. You can see. So each process will be allowed to enter into one particular control point. What is that in the sense? Let us consider this is the time. This will be the progressive of time. So concurrent system has been started at this location, and after starting up, I mean switch on of this particular concurrent system, several processes have initiated to do their process, and so one process may require a repository, some other process will require CPU cycle, some other process will require some memory, something like that. They will be put forward some requisitions. Yes, I need see the repository after this time. I need some memory cycles after this time. I need some what you call CPU cycles after this time. I need printer after this time. I need disk drive after this time. So on time base, some controls will be fixed by process 1, process 2. This will be done by process 1. This will be done by process 2. And this will be done by again process 1. So this will be done by again process 1. And this will be done by again process 2. On execution of these processes, at a certain timings, so process 1 required so and so resources, process 2 will be required so and so resources. Okay. If this is the barrier, before this particular time, process 1 cannot be allowed this resource. Before this particular time, however, from this particular time to this particular time, process 2 cannot be allowed so-called resource here. Resource cannot be allotted to process 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, so such kind of barriers will be gets created. So therefore, it is very easy to assign the resources to each and every process in a progressive manner and progressive interval manner. Okay, so that is what about the barrier or reducious kind of process. It's very important to remember this particular word. Okay, pass it to control point. When the control point of the sense and the timeline, you have to put some kind of control point by yourselves that after 2 minutes I require so and so. After 4 minutes I will require so and so. After 10 minutes I will require so and so. If you put such kind of timeline, then when you have to come to that particular time bound, then so-called resource will be allocated. Whatever the resource you have requested can be allocated. Otherwise, it cannot. Okay. Before that particular time, if you are trying to take, no, it could not be allotted. After time will be a time, then resource will be gets allocated. So this is what about the barrier or reduce kind of cooperation. And second is very important. Already you have studied in your operating system course, that is producer consumer kind of processing, cooperation, not processing, cooperation. So producer always trying to produce the data. She's always trying to produce the data, and these data items will be supplied to consumer. So consumer is always trying to consume those data items. For example, let me give you one particular example, not in the terms of operating system, in terms of what you call real-time system. I shall give you some kind of producer-consumer kind of operation here. So if you consider ATM, so ATM will be filled by, the bank will be filled by, so money, then all customers will be, so consume that particular money. If money will not be provided by the producer, that is bank, how could you consume it? It is highly impossible to consume from that particular ATM. Of course, one message will be given. So, what that particular, it is not working properly or out of cash, something. One message will be given to you. However, message will be there, that is not important. If a bank will be filled with the money with that ATM, then people will consume. Bank will be the producer, people will be consumers. Okay, so something like that. Then what exactly these things will be done? So two different problems will be there, while the producer and consumer problems will be taken into consideration. Number one, producer is always trying to produce the item for consumption. Always trying to produce the items for consumption. Whereas the consumer always consume the item exactly once. Exactly once. After the particular item will be consumed, that could not be produced one more time. So these are the two different types of conditions. Okay, these are the two different kinds of conditions. Please remember this too. And next one is synchronization or primitive. Very important into that is critical section. What is the definition, actual definition for a critical section? Look at this. The process may be accessed or accessing the value or updating value of a particular data item which is under shared mode, at least by one more process. At least by one more process. Okay, so a process required to access a data item and update it. So this data item will be shared with another process also. If such kind of scenario will be there in your system, to evaluate that kind of scenario, I mean, what kind of statements you are supposed to, instructions you are supposed to frame to access the data and to update the particular data and restore the data to the server. What kind of statements you are supposed to write? Those statements will be common for all processes, not exactly you. All processors will be done the same. Okay, done the same. For example, let me explain in terms of real-time example. Again, I'd like to consider ATM. Soon you have to insert your card into ATM. It will be checked that whether it belongs to that particular bank or not. If it is not, it will be checked your identify your bank's ID. After that, you may be do some kind of procedure, that is, so how much amount is required, what is your PIN number, XYZ, everything will be done. After that, if money will be withdrawn by you, then immediately it must be noted down. So 3 to 4 instructions. Number one, first instruction is it must be deduct amount from your account, so that it could be so adjusted, updated. During updation, so during performing the same operation, So your friend or your father, somebody are doing same kind of business with your account to transfer money from your account to some other. Of course, with your knowledge only. So it has been done with your knowledge only. Then which operation is going to be executed first? So modification of your, updation of your account. So by the ATM, by the online transaction, which could be done first. So therefore, that particular kind of operation is called as critical section. That is what the critical section. Critical section is a sequence of operations, sequence of instructions, which will be access the data and update the data at local. After updating, it must be send the data, updated data to server. So these are the three operations which will be there with the critical section. So these operations will be common for anybody. Okay, and when one process will be executing its critical section, then no other process will be there to execute the allowed, not there to where no other process is allowed to execute its critical section. It's very important to remember. If process 1, P1 is executing its critical section, remaining all other P2, P3, P4 not supposed to enter into critical section. So critical section must be executed by only one process at any point of time. If this procedure cannot be given in a proper way, then race conditions will be occurred. Because sometimes process 1 will be done some kind of operation, then process 2 will be took place. So interleaving of process 1 will be taken by process 2, then race condition will be occurred. Already I have explained what kind of race conditions, how many kinds of race conditions are there in different platforms. Okay. Then, so very important point to be remember. This is very much important. No two processes are executed in the critical section at any point of time. It's very important. If you do so, then operations could be gives you some frozen kind of outputs. You could not get proper outputs. Then, so this critical section problem can be designed a protocol to synchronize the activity to cooperate with data. How this could be done here in the sense, so each process must be request permission to the synchronization segment, so to enter into its critical section. Okay, it must be forward one requisition. Yes, I am going to do something like that. Then it will be allowed. So based on the situation, based on the condition, whether critical section will be gets free or not. So it will be examined. If it is free, nobody is there in the critical section. No process is being executed in the critical section. Then it will be give some kind of chance to execute the critical section. So to do this one, how this could be? A critical section execution will be done. Practically, they will be done. They will be written before going to critical section. It must be done with entry section. Okay, then it will be goes to, so after the entry section, critical section must be there. After entry section, critical section will be executed. After critical section, exit section will be there. Critical section is gets over, and some kind of modifications you have to done in the exit section, and then any other remainder section will be there. After so exit section, you have to go ahead with the remainder section. So let me show you the program, operating system program only. You can see this one. While true, so a process is to get the permission to enter in the critical section, then entry section will be gets executed. Then actual critical section, the modification, accessing of data, the modification will be done. That modification will be so paid back or stored back to the server. Everything is gets over. And if you consider some different types of solutions are there, those solutions will be gets modified the global values with the exit section. And if any remainder section will be there, that could be done by the process and come back to the its original work. Okay, which is not under critical section. In this way, it could be taken into consideration. So critical section could always follow this, or could always satisfy, not follow, satisfies the following three requirements. That is mutual exclusion. First one is mutual exclusion. So as far as concurrent and parallel programming, mutual exclusion is very, 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 very important. We will discuss this mutual exclusion in a effective manner right from second unit onwards. Okay, the second unit we would like to discuss some very clearly. So, if what is the mutual exclusion here in the sense? If a process PI is executing in its critical section and no other process will be executed their critical sections. If PI is actually enter into its critical section, that means that this is the critical section. So process PI is being started its execution. No other PJ or PK cannot be so executed this particular touch this particular critical section. That is mutually exclusion. Okay, so mutually inclusion in the sense two people are there, two processes are there, two processes will be done their operation parallel. Two processes will be there, the operation in parallel. So they will perform the operations in parallel so that everything will be gets completed within time. Exclusion in the sense, so they must not be perform the operation parallelly. First, one person must finish, then follow the second person. Okay, so probably you people have recall in sports, so 400-meter relay will be or 1000-meter relay will be there. So four people will be stand there at the respective positions. First 100 meters will be run by one particular person, and the relay stick will be given to second person. So she will be, or he will be start. What do you call run for 100 meters. Thereby, at 100 meters, one more person will be stay back, and she will be taken that stick, and the completion of the 1000 kilometers will be done in such a way. Okay, that is called as exclusion. Both people cannot be run at the same time. That is called as exclusion. Inclusion in the sense both will be run at the same time for one particular team. Okay. Then second property which must be followed by critical section will be progress. Progress. When a process will be, process PI has been executed in its critical section, and the exit section also completed, and it is in remainder section. When it is in the remainder section, PI will be in remainder section. So operating system or synchronization segment must be take care about who is next to be enter into so critical section. After remainder section is gets over, after this particular remainder section is gets over for PI, and it will be come out from the particular thing, then obviously one more process will be given chance to execute so its critical section. So that is what the progression is called as. Okay, P1, P2, P3. So 5 processes are there. P3 is being executed its critical section first. Before coming to end of the critical section execution of P3, then synchronization will be identify which process will be executed next. Okay, this operation cannot be postponed. This operation cannot be postponed for a while. If it is postponed, starvation will be leads. Starvation will be leads by the process. The next one, bounded waiting. So if you want to, so waiting for the executing the critical section, it must be within the time limits, not indefinitely waiting. It must be within the, of course, wait for some 2 nanoseconds or 10 nanoseconds, something like that. After completion of that, then second process will be get centered. Likewise, it must be there. Otherwise, so wait for 1 hour. 1 hour in the sense execution of instruction for a computer is just 1 nanoseconds or 2 nanoseconds. But 1 hour in the sense very considerable amount of time, so that could not be possible. So waiting must be within the limits only, not exactly huge amount of time. So these are the 3 different types of what you call requisitions, which could be not requisitions, points which would be always satisfied by the critical section while we have to developing this critical solution for this critical section problem. One of such kind of solutions will be Peterson's problem. Actually, this is the first solution whichever given by Peterson's solution for critical section. So Peterson's solution always restricted for only 2 problems. In ready queue, for example, in ready queue, this is the ready queue here. In ready queue, so process 1, so process 2, process 3, process 4. Several number of processes are So waiting here, so to execute its critical section, and the CPU will be allocated based on the synchronization segment, whether process one or process two will be allocated. So while doing this kind of job, while doing this particular kind of job, so first and foremost solution for this synchronization is Peterson problem. Peterson problem will be taken only two processes at any moment of time. Remaining everything will be gets waited for a while. These two processes will be taken into consideration and given chance to one of them. Given chance to one of them. So this how this could be given in the sense by taking extra two variables or extra two activities. One is turn, second one is the flag. If turn equal to process one, yes, process one is trying to enter into critical section. While turn will be equal to process one, flag of process two must be false. False in the sense she is not interested to enter into critical section at that particular point. Okay, so look at this flag of I will be equal to true, and the next turn will be taken by j. Next turn, not right now. Next turn will be taken by j. Then, if you see, if a flag of I will be equal to true in the sense, obviously, so the flag of j must be always equal to false until the completion of the what is that? The completion of ith problem. Okay, flag of look at this flag of j, that is false actually, which is false. One thing will be gets false, and operation could not be take another activity, so that jth job is waiting for some time. It will be put into ready queue for some more time. Then critical section of I is being gets executed here, ith process. After completion of critical section, this is the exit section actually. In exit section, flag of I will be gets false. When it will be gets false in the sense, turn of j will be taken, followed by flag of j will be getting true. After that, it will be come out from the critical section. Only two processes. If turn it will be equal to, so turn turn will be equal to some process, only process one and process two will be there here. For example, only two processes are there. Turn will be equal to process two in the sense. So this is the next turn which will be taken, not right now. Not right now. Next turn which is going to come. Not right now. If turn will be equal to 2 in the sense, obviously flag of 2. So flag of second process must be always equal to false. Okay. If turn will be equal to 2 in the sense, obviously the flag of flag of 1 must be equal to 2. Okay. Remember this. Remember this condition. Turn will be equal to 2. For flag of 2 will be false and the flag of 1 will be true. So second process will be entered into its critical section. So for first process number 1 will be entered into critical section. Process number 2 will be wait some more time until the finishing of execution of critical section of process 2. Okay. When this flag of 1 will be becomes false, so false, and then it will be becomes true, and it will be goes to next process. For example, here it is process number P3. Okay. In this way, only two processes will be considered. It will be always restricted for the two processes. Okay. In this way, Peterson solution will be continued, and of course, this Peterson solution cannot be solved the problems of several number of real-time applications. So therefore, Peterson solution cannot be used nowadays, and people are using semaphore to solve the synchronization problem. And let me explain the semaphore while we'll come across with inter-process communication. In the second unit we have, thereby I have to explain completely regarding the semaphore. So how many kinds of semaphore are there? What is binary semaphore? What is the number semaphore? How the things will be gets happen? Everything will be explained during that time. That's all for today. Class is it's over. So let me take attendance for a while. Please wait for a while. Yes, attendance has taken. for the first list. So only 25 people have attended. I don't know what happened to other people. Okay, 25 have attended. Tomorrow we'd like to start unit number 2.